I'm William Lim. I'm the Managing Director of CL3 Architects, a Hong Kong-based design and architecture company. The book is kind of a commemoration of the 30 years anniversary of my company, and it's almost like over 40 years of my design journey through architecture, starting from the time that I was a student until now. Yeah, so I think this is a very good time for the book. I think it has a lot to do with our change in mentality after COVID. And I think in terms of design is changing, in terms of my approach and my philosophy towards design is also changing. This is the fish. So this is the fish lantern. This is one of the very important projects that kind of lead me to think very in a more Asian way about my design, and this is with bamboo construction, totally unique to Hong Kong. So that is definitely an important project. It's a very thick book with 400 pages. It's very pictorial, and as I flip through, you would see a lot of elements that has a very strong Asian identity to them. They could be very contemporary, but they do feel very Asian, and it does include some Asian art forms in them. When I look back at my projects, actually a lot of them are based in Asia, so they have a lot to do with the East, and since they were also contain ideas from the East, not necessarily kind of iconic elements like a dragon or things like that, but it's really more the philosophy, the essence of kind of a Chinese and Asian approach to design. For the past 40 years, we've been talking about East meets West. And I think at one point, it was also kind of my company philosophy that we are doing things that crosses the East-West culture. But then I think starting from maybe about 15, 20 years ago, we started to do more and more hotel projects. And we were dealing with international brands. But I think their requirement is that the project, since it's in Asia, should feel Asian. And it should, when you wake up in a place, you should know where you are. So this kind of like globalization of design start to take on a different turn. This was what I learned as a student. And then in between, architecture started to take on a very globalized view, and people were doing the same glass building in Alaska as they would in Miami. Pretty much it's glass buildings everywhere. And I think it started to lose the essence of the ethnicity and the locality of a project. And I think what I'm hoping to talk about is when we are designing for Asia, we should start to look at the Asian context. We should look at the density of the city, which is very different from anywhere else in the world. I think Asia faced a lot of very different kind of design constraints. So we no longer use the Western principle to design in Asia. We need to look at Asia and the Asian characteristics when we think about design in this region. If I go to Africa, I would definitely want to seek for, things that were designed locally by the local people, local craftsmanship. I think it would become a more of a worldwide phenomenon that people are looking for the more human side of design, the more tactile, the more handcrafted, and then they would look for different culture being able to do different kinds of workmanship. I think in terms of material, also different continents have different material sourcing and the local craftsmanship, and I think those will become a lot more important and interesting to people. When we talk about sustainability, talk about well design, a lot of it has to do with sourcing material locally, reducing carbon footprint, and also design in a more kind of passive energy consumption. So a lot of it has to do with how we design the architecture to minimize the use of artificial ventilation. I think historically, I mean, when you look at some of our design materials, it's like with bamboo, with, you know, very sustainable material. I think the whole idea of building, you know, also Asian design tend to be more horizontal, and I think it's kind of more earth-friendly in a way. So I think the idea of sustainable design has always been part of Asian culture. And also I think the fact that we tend not to be a disposable culture. We tend to reuse things. You know, things are passed down from generation to generation. I think that is also a very strong part of the sustainable concept. I always feel that architects and designers, interior designers, spatial designers, do have a responsibility to our society. What we design can have either a positive or negative impact to the user. I think when we do something that is environmentally sustainable, it is a big responsibility to our future generation. As I start to do projects now, I actually want to convince my client to use more sustainable material, to use more earth-friendly material. And I think in the long run, I find that more and more clients are willing to accept that. There are ways that we can express a certain quality without using kind of like excavated materials. And I think that would be a good way for young designers to look at our future and to really appreciate the environment and help preserve it.